As Plato says, everyone carries a story that is not seen from the outside. This is the story of a person masked behind a morbid narrative and the long shadow of two towering figures, Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. And if that weren't enough, being Jewish ultimately cost her life at the hands of the Nazis. Patient, devoted, loving, and scholarly, crucial in the development of the study of schizophrenia, and a pioneer in female sexuality and child psychoanalysis. Today we meet Sabina Spielrein. Sabina Spielrein was born in Rostov-on-Don into a well-off Jewish family. She was the eldest of 5 siblings and received a good education, but in a tense family environment marked by paternal abuse, a theme that would later appear in her clinical material. As a teenager, when she attempted to begin medical studies in Switzerland, she suffered a mental breakdown and was admitted to the Burgholzli Sanatorium in Zurich, where Eugen Bleuler and the young Carl Gustav Jung treated her with psychoanalytic techniques until her recovery allowed her to resume her studies. The doctor-patient relationship gradually evolved into a highly complex romantic bond that would influence Jung and shape his theories, as well as impact his later dialogue with Freud. Once recovered, Sabina graduated and earned her doctorate in 1911 from the University of Zurich, with a pioneering thesis on the psychological content of a case of schizophrenia, one of the first psychoanalytic theses, and likely the first by a woman on this disorder. During those years, she joined the Vienna Psychoanalytic Society as one of the first female members, presenting her work Destruction as the Cause of Coming into Being. Later, she wrote on child psychoanalysis and witnessed how the Russian Revolution, political instability, and Stalinist purges destroyed her family fortune and tragically affected her siblings. In the 1930s, she returned to Rostov-on-Don with her 2 daughters, maintaining a discreet intellectual life, until July 1942, during the second Nazi occupation of the city, when Sabina and her daughters were murdered in the Zmievskaya Balka massacre, and her name remained nearly erased from psychoanalytic historiography for decades. Sabina stands out for her morbid personal story, but also for her influence by Jung, her pioneering professional work on female sexuality, her excellent research on schizophrenia and child psychoanalysis, and, if that weren't enough, for being a direct influence on Sigmund Freud. One of Spielrein's central works is her thesis on the psychological content of a case of schizophrenia, in which she analyzes a patient's language and associations to understand her inner world without relying solely on the medical record. This way of listening to and systematizing schizophrenic discourse was pioneering in considering symptoms as carriers of meaning, not merely organic symptoms, to the point that Freud later referenced her work in his writings on psychosis. In the field of sexuality, Sabina offered a female perspective that was uncommon for the time. She analyzed how sexual experience can combine pleasure, fear, ego destruction, and transformation, especially in women. She argued that female sexuality exceeds male models, and that the conflict between merging with another and losing oneself underlies later feminist psychoanalysis. Her best-known article, Destruction as the Cause of Coming into Being, develops the idea that in sexuality and psychic life, there are 2 opposing forces, one toward life, union, and creation, and another destructive, toward dissolution and return to a more primal state. This formulation anticipates what Freud later conceptualized as the life and death drives. and Freud himself acknowledged Spielrein's influence in Beyond the Pleasure Principle, though for a long time this recognition remained understated. Spielrein also wrote about child psychology and development, emphasizing the importance of the mother-child relationship in the origin of language and the self, and the role of early emotional experiences in personality formation. These ideas, which highlight the pre-Oedipal phase and the primary maternal bond, foreshadowed contributions later made by authors such as Melanie Klein and Donald Winnicott in object relations theory. Her work shows a direct influence and a constant effort to build bridges between Freud and Jung. On one hand, she used concepts like libido, repression, and child sexuality. On the other, she incorporated myths, symbols, and the idea of psychic opposites, characteristic of Jungian thought. This integrative approach, not aligned with any single school, partly explains her later obscurity, as she was absorbed by neither the Freudian nor the Jungian canon, despite profoundly influencing both. Sabina Spielrein's trajectory shows how a Jewish woman, in a highly patriarchal, violent, and volatile context, managed to make decisive contributions to emerging psychoanalysis, despite being erased from official narratives for decades, and remembered mostly as Jung's patient and lover, overshadowing her scientific legacy. What do you think? Did you know about Sabina Spielrein? Were you familiar with her work or her importance? Thank you for watching until the end. Like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to support me, and leave a comment with your thoughts about the video and whether you knew Sabina Spielrein. Thank you, and see you next time.